Todd Barclay.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a privilege to be able to speak in support of the Housing Legislation Amendment Bill, and it's also a privilege to speak after Phil Twyford, given his positions on housing in New Zealand, creating a fiasco of his own, Mr Speaker. This is the guy that calls for a national emergency on housing and won't support urgency on important housing legislation. I've been a strong advocate for an extension of the special housing areas, Mr Speaker, because my electorate has benefited considerably from 7 special housing areas to date so far, and because of this legislation, which I hope will pass, we will benefit from another, hopefully up to half a dozen special housing areas, an additional couple of thousand houses coming on board in Queenstown, Mr Speaker, which is considerably important. Phil Twyford was opposed to the Home Start initiative, has expressed supportive comments in the past. He also wanted a capital gains tax. Now he's opposed to that. Phil Twyford is also in favour of selling state houses, but is now opposed to it, Mr Speaker. He has got more positions on housing than anybody else, Mr Speaker. This is an important piece of legislation and it's a great bill. And if he were to talk to any developer, any community housing provider, any home loan business or any business in any of the fastest growing areas within this country, Mr Speaker, he would know that they are also in support of this legislation. He would know that if he had been down to Queenstown, which he was, instead of just going up onto the ski field and having a great time, if he had actually talked to the Community Housing Trust there, he would have found out that we've benefited by over 1,000 new houses in the Queenstown area, simply only delivered under special housing legislation, Mr Speaker. We've had 7 special housing areas under this and we hope to see some more. Andrew Little's Public Works Act provisions not needed. That's another example of how out of touch those guys are around housing in New Zealand. We've got a perfect case in point in my electorate, Mr Speaker, at the moment, where the Housing Act is preventing possibly the on-sale of government-owned land to be used for worker accommodation and affordable housing, simply because a former owner 20, 30, 40 years ago can put up his hand and say, I might quite like that piece of land. Actually, what that land is necessary to be used for is special housing, worker accommodation. This provision that we're passing today enables that demand to be met very quickly, Mr Speaker. So it's a privilege to be able to support this legislation. I want to congratulate the Minister for all his hard work in this space and thank you on behalf of my electorate for facilitating more houses being built. Thank you.